So I assume most people will be familiar with it, but why don't you talk about what rent control means to a property owner? How does it change the valuation of your property if you can't get back to market when a vacancy occurs?
Well, properties trade based on the income they generate or the profits they generate. Sometimes they trade as a gross multiple of what annual rents are. Sometimes they're based on capitalization rates, really what percentage do you deliver to the bottom line. And rent control, of course, it cuts off your revenue opportunity. And at the same time, it increases your costs and risks because invariably with a rent stabilization ordinance, or we like to call them price controls, there is a whole host of tenant protections that get passed. And those tenant protections basically outline exactly the reasons and the only reasons an owner can use to have a tenant vacate a unit. And those are for committing crimes or destroying property, not paying rent. There's a number of things. But in the real world here in California, when you have one of those ordinances, it could take you 5 to 6 months to evict somebody, cost you $10,000 to $50,000, depending if your tenant gets a free attorney from the government who gets continuance after continuance and asks for a jury trial. And then once you get that, from my experience in the Southern California area, it could take 2 to 3 months for the sheriff to come around and do a lockout. So there you're 8 months in, tens of thousands of dollars of attorney fees, free rent this entire time, and then you get to rehab your unit to try to find somebody responsible who'll pay their rent and abide by their lease to occupy it, hopefully for a long time. And it's just an unfortunate situation. But the way rental property owners here in California get characterized, it's always negative. It's always one bad apple applies to everybody. And so the government passes regulations to help perhaps less than 1% of tenants. But unfortunately, more than 99% of tenants suffer as a result because owners under these ordinances can't afford to maintain their buildings. They can't do upgrades. They can't install quieter windows, provide new flooring, paint the units. And so these good tenants, and tenants are our customers, have to live in these buildings that could need some improvements, but the owners just can't afford to do it.
Yeah, and I think that message gets lost in that you're trying to serve your customers, and if the money used to serve your customers is diverted to attorneys and litigation and regulation instead of improvements for the tenant, they're the ultimate. They suffer ultimately.
Yeah, and we don't want to go down that route. It's just too costly. We're not in the eviction business. We're in the housing business, and we just want people to live quietly and not disturb their neighbors for years and years.